Ah, yes, the old test course again. The most boring thing ever made. My favorite. What's going on, everybody? Your host, LovelyCheesePizza here. Welcome back to another riveting and exciting episode of Let's Play Gran Turismo 3, the Ultimate Driving Simulator, where we are going to move in the most ovular shape ever for a really long time. But we'll be alright. It's going to be just fine. We're going to eventually overtake everybody. They will kneel before us as we lop their heads off with a giant claymore that's way too large for a single man to carry, and it'll all be done. So, I'm just hoping that this isn't going to be one of those situations where we jump out in front and then they all just, like, magically start just bringing up the rear and kicking our ass. So, I think we're going to be okay, though. As far as I remember, we're still vastly overpowered here, so it's basically just run out the clock. And so I figured, since we're doing this track of all tracks, I've got a story that'll at least, you know, liven things up a little bit. It'll bring some spice to the relationship. That way it's not going stagnant. And, so, here's the deal. My neighborhood's a pretty quiet neighborhood, naturally. There's not really a lot going on. You know, it's not a very busy area. It's over by, you know, a couple elementary schools and a middle school, but it's a pretty quiet neighborhood overall. A lot of old people that live in this neighborhood. But about probably like a week and a half ago, roughly, somewhere in that general area, it was fucking chaos in this neighborhood, dude. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, my grandma had lived here for a good, I don't know, like close to 20 years, I think. Somewhere around there, and even, you know, I myself lived here for you know, close to 4, and never in all those years had I experienced anything like this over here. So we're all just hanging out here one night. You know, it's Michaela and Haley and I and my mom and my dad and my brother, and we're all just hanging out watching TV, and we were starting to get Haley and Harrison ready for bed. And all of a sudden we hear some police sirens going off in the neighborhood. We're like, oh, that's kind of weird. I wonder what's going on. And we didn't really think anything of it at the time. We're just like, well, I'm sure, you know, whatever. And then we hear another set of sirens. I'm like, what, there's 2 of them now? I wonder, no, there must be something going on. Maybe they, you know, chased somebody down and they caught him in the neighborhood. For the next 25 minutes, we just constantly kept hearing these 2 different sets of sirens, and one of them was like directly out in front of my house, and the other set of them was on the adjacent street behind us, and we could just hear them just like roving around the area, and we're just like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is crazy. Like, this doesn't happen. And then we go and look in the kitchen, so you can see right out on the street, and we see that one of these police cars is going like about like 5 miles an hour, running its siren as it's got its lights on, going up and down the street. So it's going down the street and it's going around this little circular loop, and they're just doing it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for just constantly. And so now we're sitting here thinking, like, what is there? Like, is there somebody? Like, you wouldn't be running your siren and driving, you know, 5 miles an hour going down the middle of the street if you weren't actively looking for somebody. So now we're on edge all of a sudden. Now we're like, oh my god, they're looking for somebody. Like, what if they're like, you know, going through people's yards and stuff? Like, what if somebody ends up being in our yard? Not like we haven't had stuff like that before. I remember telling a story with you guys on this channel a long time ago where you know, when I lived in this general neighborhood, you know, about 10 blocks, well, it was about 5 or 6 blocks away, you know, 30 years ago, we used to have situations where there'd be people that would just like hop our fence and run around through our backyard to go hop, you know, other people's fences to try to, you know, outrun the cops or whatever. and and get to the main street where they can hide from there. But I mean, that was a couple decades ago. So times have changed. I'm not saying this is like the most upstanding neighborhood in like west of the Rockies or anything, but it's certainly not a place where you're gonna like just walk down the street and see a guy sitting on his sitting on a front porch just doing lines of coke off of a stripper's ass. It's a little bit more homey than that. But it's one of those situations where it's just like this is very foreign territory right now. We've got like a thing going on. And so we kind of just waited out. We're like, all right, well, how about everybody that's not my dad and my brother and I, how about everybody just kind of chill in the living room back there, just kind of stay out of the direct line of like a window, and just kind of take it easy while we keep an eye on things. And so we're sitting there just watching this in the kitchen, and we can constantly hear just the sirens getting louder and then getting quieter, and getting louder and getting quieter, and that one car keeps patrolling the same general area. And then all of a sudden he disappears. We're like, okay, well maybe they found whoever it was, and they're out of here. And so we kind of start to relax a little bit. About 10 minutes goes by. Hear all the sirens again, but now there's a third one. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on in this neighborhood? Like I can't figure it out. And so now I'm going to social media trying to see if anybody else knows, because I know some people that work in law enforcement for Salem and Kaiser. And they're saying there's the police are looking for somebody. There's a couple of suspects that are that they're trying to find, and they're in this general area. It's just like everybody's advised to stay indoors, do not go outside for any reason, because a couple of them are suspected to be armed. And I'm just like, whoa, shit, this is taking on a new life now. And so now it's like, okay, well, as soon as my dad heard that, he's like, all right, here we go, we're getting serious now. And so he goes in the back, and he goes and busts out the gun safe, and he takes out a couple of handguns. He's like, all right, keep one in here, just in case worst comes to worst. We're keeping one in, right in here, and it's loaded, it's ready to go, just in case something happens. We can run back there, it'll be ready to go. And he also had me take another one and bring it out in kind of for the other side of the house, just in case it's a situation where there's not enough time to go running all the way back there. So it's like we got two handguns loaded at the ready, just in case we got to go all fucking Old West shooting in the saloon type of thing here. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to download the police scanner app. I've never really messed around with police scanners, but this is kind of a special situation because it's happening right in my freaking neighborhood, and I've got children here, and I've got a wife that I got to protect, and so I want to know like exactly what's going on here. And so I download it and I start listening in. I'm sitting here like standing in my completely dark kitchen, just staring out the window toward my street. And I've got my phone just like up to my head, with the volume on relatively low. That way, Haley and everybody else in the other room can't really hear it. I'm just sitting there listening. I'm just like so on edge. I'm just it was nuts. I'm just sitting here listening, and you keep hearing them talking that they're the suspects are still reported to be in this general area, but they don't have any visual on them. And so, dude, it was so fucking intense. Like, my dad and I are just sitting there just listening to this thing, and we're just waiting for some kind of tip of like, we got somebody, or we know exactly, we have visual, we're in pursuit. But they found one of them. They eventually found one of them, and they were trying to kind of kite him away from this general neighborhood to get him out in like a main street area, just in case there was a shooting exchange, that it wouldn't be there wouldn't be innocent bystanders in the way. So they were able to kite him out towards one of the main roads, and they were able to, I would assume, eventually get him there, because they got him all bottled up in like this parking lot of an apartment complex, which is still kind of heavily populated, but they figured it's probably a little bit easier. There'd probably be less likely to be people out running around if they saw a police car just chilling right in the main parking lot there with the sirens and the lights on. But they still never gave us confirmation on where the other person was that was on my street, and so that's the one that we were all tensed up about. And we hung around just kind of roving the house, like listening for sirens and all, and just checking the scanner for like a good hour or so, just waiting for something. And like we're sitting like, you know, ducking around, looking in like the yards, seeing, because at one point they started taking like spotlights and they started shining them in people's yards, like into the bushes and stuff, to try to see if they could see somebody hiding in any of those. And that's when we started getting like really tense, because it's like, well, what if there's somebody hiding in some of the bushes in our front yard? You know, is that gonna like force them to hop a fence and then go into our backyard, where it's a lot, you know, where now it's a real problem, because, you know, this is where they could try to break into the house, because, you know, it's about the only option they've got. And so we're just like, we're freaking the fuck out, dude. It was all sorts of nuts. And eventually they were able to, whatever it was that was going on, they were eventually able to get everybody, you know, all the suspects, you know, kited into one area. They were able to move whoever it was out of this neighborhood, and they were able to eventually, you know, apprehend them. I never really got the full story of what was going on, but apparently it was some type of like domestic dispute where they like broke into somebody's house, and there was some type of altercation, and I think there was some type of like theft going on, and so then they fled the area, and they ended up getting into this neighborhood. And then when they found out that there were, you know, there were officers that were chasing after them, they just tried to like lay low to see if they could get them to leave, and it ended up not happening that way. And I think they all got apprehended, and I believe that at least one of them was armed, but I don't think there were any shots fired at any point. So, dude, it was crazy. Like, I've never really had anything like that before. I obviously had that crazy ass story where there are people that had, you know, were running through our backyard, and my brother and I were asleep in our bedroom at our old house, and there was a guy that like walked up to our to my window and was like looking in my window, and I had like, you know, one eye cracked open, and I saw that he was looking in there, and that was really freaking creepy. But never really had a situation where I knew there were, you know, potentially armed suspects roaming the neighborhood, and the cops couldn't find them for well over an hour. And, you know, at any given point, there could have been somebody with a gun in my fucking yard. And it could have been a, you know, a thing where like the cops are like coming into my house and, you know, trying to divert us out of here so they can have like some fucking crazy, you know, last stand situation where they gun a guy down on my back porch or something. It was nuts, man. You guys ever had anything like that where, you know, you've had some type of, you know, police-bound altercation with, you know, with somebody where it's like in your neighborhood on your street, and you just gotta like sit there and kind of barricade yourself in a safe spot in your house and just kind of, you know, peek around through a window and just kind of watch and listen to what's going on? It's tense, man. It was eventually got to a point where because I was just listening to the scanner, and I was in the living room. We got to a point where Mikhail's like, you gotta turn that thing off, man. Like you're at a point now where like Haley's freaking the hell out. Like she was afraid to go to sleep because, you know, she was afraid that somebody was gonna break into the house and you know, start hurting people. So it's like, all right. It's like, you know, I want to listen in because I want to know what's going on. So if worse comes to worse, I'm prepared and I'm ready to, you know, defend the house, you know, with my dad and Spencer to keep everybody safe in here. But I totally understand, you know, it's like there's gotta be like a limit there though, because now you're terrifying a 10-year-old and now she doesn't feel safe in her own house, and now, you know, it's kind of escalated to a point where it's, you know, nobody's benefiting from this. It's like, obviously you want to know what's going on, but when you're sacrificing the peace of mind from your own child in order to do it, you've kind of gone above the line. So ended up just turning it off, and it's like, well, you know, we'll just kind of see what happens. You know, we'll still kind of be prepared and ready if need be, but we'll let everything else take care of itself. But yeah, dude, it was nuts. It was crazy. It's just that level of uncertainty when the sirens and the police cars that are roaming your neighborhood continually keep making the same round for an hour because they can't find whoever it is, and it just gives you like this weird sinking feeling in your stomach. It's just I was kind of hoping that they'd catch whoever it was in the neighborhood just so that I could find out that it was like the dude or the dudes that stole my laptop. Even though I know that's entirely a fucking fantasy and in no way, shape, or form actually rooted in any sort of actual possibility. But I'm sitting here like creating this scenario in my head of like, we got you cornered, you better come out, you piece of shit. He just like finally walks out from, you know, behind some bushes. He's like, all right, I'm sorry, just take me in. And, you know, they end up getting a confession out of him, like, oh, why were you in this area? Well, we were here like a week or two ago, and we broke into this car that was in this driveway, and we found a laptop in there, and I just, you know, I'll totally give it back if you guys just let me go. And then they, you know, take him back to his little storage facility or whatever, and they, you know, he ends up having my laptop bag, and it's all perfectly intact, and he gives it back to me, and everything's cool. And it's like, that is absolutely like the least likely thing to ever happen. Like, that's the most like a Hollywood, not even fucking remotely plausible to be real type of situation to have happen. Just a random ass dude being caught, and just so happens that he's the dude that stole your shit, and he's perfectly willing to give it back to you, even though, you know, that's just, there's no way that would ever happen. But it'd be cool if it did, though. That would be, you know, that'd be like a straight to VHS type of movie that'd play at like 4 in the morning or something on some like budget movie channel. But yeah, what are you gonna do? So this went over way better than I was anticipating. I mean, we are just tearing them up. I mean, it is just like their bodies won't even be recognizable at the morgue with how bad this is. But it's good. I mean, at least we'll have this race out of the way. It's one that I didn't even have to stress out about it for any longer than about maybe like 1/1000th of a second. And it's all good. So we'll be able to have this race done. I think there's still quite a few of them left in this championship circuit, though. So we're gonna have to be on our best possible skill level once we get further into this thing, because as the car starts to decline in power, theirs don't, because they're like these fucking alien cars that just never have any sense of compromised abilities, while mine does. Especially for tracks like Special Stage Route 11, where there's a lot of weird hairpin turns and situations where if you're not on top of your game, they're gonna get you. Or things like Côte d'Azur, Azul. I think it's Azul, actually. I don't remember. It's been a little while. That one's got that little sequence of turns towards the end that can be a problem. So we gotta be careful, because I really don't want to ever have to come back and do any of these races again. So hopefully we can luck out and not have it be part of our deal. So, well, we got a few laps left here. I just want to get something off of my chest. This is a thing that's been bothering me for a while. So, and this is, you know, this is just kind of an opinion that it bugs me. So, Haley's biological dad. He and his wife pulled a move against Haley for Christmas that I think is severely fucked up. And you know, if you guys, you guys can probably have varying opinions on this, but I feel like a lot of you will probably agree with me on this. In the level of fucked upness that this is, they basically told her, supposedly, like, we're gonna get confirmation on this later, but supposedly they told her that they're not gonna be getting her presents for Christmas virtually ever again, and she didn't even do anything. And this is what bothers me. They said that because she doesn't like physically live over there outside of every other weekend, that they don't feel like they have to. They don't feel like they have an obligation to get her presents for Christmas, because she's not there often enough for them to feel like they have to do that. And so they're not gonna get her presents on Christmas anymore. Their version of getting her presents are quote unquote experiences. So like when they, go to the beach or they go places throughout the year, basically the culmination of all those function as Christmas presents for them. But they don't feel like they need to get her, they don't feel like they need to indulge in getting her actual Christmas presents. But here's the kicker. Haley's got 2 other siblings that are living over there permanently because they're her dad's and stepmom's kids. So they're, it's their kids. It's not her dad and Michaela. It's not, it's not a child that was made from 2 of them. So now we've got a different dynamic. But so the 2 of them, her other sisters that are living there all the time, they still get Christmas presents though. Granted, they're a lot younger. Like one of them's like a year and a half old or something like that, and the other one's just a baby. But they still get Christmas presents. And here's the part that's severely fucked up about all this. Haley's got to be over there on Christmas Day because the way that the structure works for visitation, whatever, we get the kids for Christmas Eve. Their dads get them for Christmas Day, and then also for like the rest of the week up until the first of the year. Haley's got to be over there on Christmas Day. They told her that we're not getting you presents for Christmas, but so she's like, okay, well then what am I supposed to do then? They're like, well you can sit here and you can watch your sisters open their presents. It's like, what kind of fucking move is that? You're gonna sit here and tell a 10-year-old child that you're not getting her presents anymore, and on Christmas Day the only thing that you get to do is you get to sit there on the couch and we get to sit here and fucking torture you and get you nothing while you get to watch your other 2 sisters open theirs. And they're gonna get Christmas presents, on a year in, year out basis, but you don't because you don't live here. It's like, how fucked up is that? Like you're just gonna sit here and annually torture your own daughter and not get her anything because, and like the part about it is that a good portion of the reason why this is happening, outside of the fact it's because, the stepmom is all, whatever, because, well, it's not my child, so I shouldn't really have to buy her anything. But it's also because both of them are supremely cheap. I mean, they are cheapskates galore. And it's not necessarily because of the fact that they're low income and they just don't have the funds, because obviously they've got plenty of money to go out and buy the other kids presents. It's that they're cheap and they don't want to have to spend the extra money. They figure, well, because she's not here 80% of the time, we just don't have to do anything. Whatever. Well, it's like it's above them or something, and that is so upsetting to me. Like it's a child. Like it's Christmas. That's like for children, that's like one of the biggest holidays, and it's it's the one day out of the year where they get some gifts. Let them enjoy the holiday where they get gifts from their parents and their grandparents and other family members, and they get to enjoy that. And you're gonna take it away from her, but you're not gonna take it away from the other kids, and you have to sit there and force her to just be a spectator. It's just like, what kind of fucking monsters are you? You're ruining Christmas for your own daughter. Like, how could you do that to your own daughter? It just doesn't even fucking compute. And so Haley's just like hardcore distraught about all of this. She's just like, I don't even want to be over there. I don't want to have anything to do with my dad right now, because she's old enough to understand that. She's just like, how could he do that kind of thing to me? She's like, I didn't do anything to deserve that. She's like, I could maybe understand it if I had done something really wrong. She's like, I've not done anything wrong. It's like, why are they taking this away from me? Like, what did I do? Because all the other years, she's gotten Christmas presents from them. Granted, not very much, but she's still been able to, have Christmas with her dad. But now all of a sudden, it's just like the entire dynamic has changed, and it's just been totally just stripped right out of her hands. It's just really upsetting. And so it's like, well, you know what? while you're here, we're gonna make sure that you have one hell of a Christmas, because it is not okay that your stepmom and your dad are acting that way. And so, you know, we're gonna make sure that you're gonna be getting twice as much of one while you're here. And so, it's just, it was so infuriating, and it hurt my heart, you know. Like that was I didn't really ever think that a thing like that could take place, where your parents just take it away from you, and they force you to watch your other siblings still get to fully take part in all of it, and you just got to sit there idly by and just take it. And then, you know, and then for the next number of days after that, you get to watch your siblings playing with all their new toys, enjoying all their new stuff, and you're just sitting there in the corner, just like, you know, what the fuck, man? It's criminal is what it is. It's just absolutely just fucking awful. And so that's my take on that. I just wanted to get that off my chest for a minute, because it just really bothers me that, you know, that there are people out there, because I know that they're not the only two people in the world that would pull a stunt like that, and it makes me sad that kind of thing happens. Like, it's one thing to tell your child, well, you know what, you know, we don't have enough money this year to get you and such and such any gifts this year. You know, we really apologize. We feel bad for it, but we just don't have the money. Like, that's an understandable situation, because there's plenty of people where they just don't have the money to be able to go out and buy a lot of gifts. But to say, well, your two sisters are going to get gifts because they live with us, but because you're only here every other weekend, you don't deserve them, is absolutely just fucking horrible. I mean, that is just, it just makes my blood boil just thinking about it right now. So that's my take on it. I hope that it's just a giant misunderstanding, and it's you know, details that were taken out of context or just misunderstood, because we've not heard it from his mouth yet. It's purely just something that Haley told us, and so we'll find out later if that's truly what the situation is, or if it's, you know, just something that got, you know, totally mixed up in translation or something. I hope that it's the latter and it's not actually what it is, but she's not really one to lie about it, so that's why we're like, you know, we're definitely taking her at her word, but we'll actually get all the real details here in just a couple of days. So, anywho, that race was supremely easy, and I know for an absolute fact that we did not win that race by 16 seconds. That game, or that screen right there, is being abnormally generous. I mean, that's trying to do one of those, well, we don't want to hurt their feelings. We want to make it look like it was a lot closer than it was, when in fact we won by like 2.5 minutes or whatever. So, yeah, when we come back on the next installment of Let's Play Gran Turismo 3, the Ultimate Driving Simulator, we're going to move on to the next race, and hopefully it'll be relatively as easy as this. So, take care, everybody. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, or night, or afternoon, or, you know, astral projection segment, if you're outside of your own body, just surveying the world or whatever. So, you guys take care, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one, everybody.